Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Alphacore, new comic from the Rippaverse, Eric July's new comic book company, has just recently been released and delivered, and I have read issue number 1. So it's time for a little bit of a review. Now this is I think, a pivotal comic book in the Rippaverse. There's a lot of creators out there who are producing really excellent comics, and owning their own comics and doing it independently and crowdfunding it, and that's awesome. And some of them are building up universes of their own, but with the Rippaverse, Eric July is trying to some degree, duplicate what Marvel and DC have done over the years, which is to have not just a shared universe for a number of characters, but also a shared universe for different creators. Now, so far, he's published Isom number 1 and Isom number 2, both written by him, the guy who created the whole universe. With Alphacore, it is written by Chuck Dixon, art by Joe Bennett. But this brings another writer into it. And I think the success of this comic book is really vital to whether the whole concept's going to work of having this kind of a shared universe. Because obviously, if you want to get books out on a very regular basis, it takes a lot of work. And if you can have multiple people working in your universe, that's going to make the whole thing more viable. But it's going to have to mesh together. It's going to have to be a broad enough universe that you can have different styles in it, but at the same time all sort of working together. And I think this is a big deal, because people often talk about, well, the problem with American comics is it's all superheroes. It's all they do is just superhero, which is not true and has never been true. War comics, horror comics, romance comics, sci-fi, fantasy, a lot of comedy. I mean, I think Dell used to outsell Marvel and DC, and they were producing stuff with like comic characters and like TV show adaptations, things of that nature. There's always been a lot more than superheroes in American comics. But with the creation of this sort of shared universe that we got with DC, I mean, you saw that early on with the Justice Society of America and with like World's Finest Comics showing, these characters all exist in the same world. And then obviously with Marvel, which, did that intentionally right from the start with Fantastic Four, then Spider-Man, etc. That was something really special. It wasn't just superhero comics. It was having this shared universe for all of them, which creates a lot of opportunities, also a lot of work. But, and so that's what Eric's doing, is this kind of shared concept. And so this to me is pivotal in making that work. So we're going to take a look at some of the early pages, because obviously I do not want to spoil the story for everybody. We have the Rippaverse ethic right there. And we have this nice little sort of a secondary cover of Alphacore going after some bad guys. We have our credits with Chuck Dixon, writer, Joe Bennett, penciler. And I hope I don't pronounce this name too badly. Thiago Dalbello, Emmanuel Braga, Thiago Gomez, and Marcio Loerzer, and Yonami as inkers, Michael Bartolo, and Thiago Dalballo, colorists, Eric Weathers, letterer, Alan Ford, copy editor, Carol Brown and Andrew Rodriguez, assistant editors, Eric July, editor-in-chief. So we begin, nice splash page, at the Texas Trust, That would be a bank. With this fella holding a gun to this woman's head. Back off. Back off or we both go up. He has a bomb. And so you can see, again, the art is top-notch, outstanding in this book. You can see that they've got him sort of surrounded by the police in Flores Park. The guy in charge here, drop the gun, release the woman, and we'll talk. No one has to die today. We're all going to die today. I'm ready to go. And all of a sudden, whoop, something happens to the guy. And Brian Solari is what happens to the guy. He grabs him, flies upward. You got a bit of a Superman pose there. Very nice. Let me go. You need to stop that. I'll live, but it still hurts. Oh, and maybe I should try to do that deep sort of Texas accent from the animation. You need to stop that. I'll live, but it still hurts. And this cape wasn't free. So basically, Solari comes in and deals with the guy, throws the bomb, tosses him down into this pool. We have a great image of the guy splashing down. And see if I can adjust this. Oh, no, that's the other light that's doing. The one negative to these really nice pages, high-quality pages, is that lights want to reflect off them like something fierce. So tosses him down in, and the guy is kind of amazed, too, because he didn't know that bomb was actually going to go off. And that gets us into the story here. So Alphacore is a superhero group. They're also police officers. And as the book has been described before, it's a police procedural with superheroes. And it is definitely that. That is definitely an element to it. The book is beautifully paced. You pack a lot into this. You have the introduction, obviously, of the main characters. You have some really good side characters introduced. You have a multitude of villains. We have a couple who are sort of, the behind-the-scenes wealthy villains. They were behind, or at least he was behind the bank heist, which was designed to do more than just steal some money. We have the floating headquarters of Alphacore, which is a nice touch, and they do some interesting things with that. Here you get to see them in the headquarters. And here we have Ingrid. There's a great line as Ingrid and Brian are arguing, because Brian was not authorized to do what he did. The rules are they only show up when they are specifically called in, and only when there are other excepts, in other words, superhumans, involved in a crime. He happened to be in the area and said, well, the heck with it. I can deal with this guy really easily. And she's like, you're going to get us in trouble. It's going to create a lot of bad press. This fella has to calm him down. There's a great line in here. This woman who's one of the techs, that was tense. It's not called Alphacore for nothing. So Brian and Ingrid have a definite rivalry there. Not necessarily one of they don't like each other or, anything like a deep emotional hatred, but they're both very forceful personalities who are generally sure that they're right. And so they're going to clash. You need that in a group. It works. Here's our first supervillain, really, who shows up. Galvin, he's got electric powers. He's kind of crazy, extremely unpleasant to deal with. And he's dealt with by our third member of Alphacore, Braxton. I think Braxton is my favorite. He's the strong, silent type. He's dependable. He's not so much jockeying for position. He's just getting stuff done. And those are the kind of characters I really love. Here we got a great image of him taking Galvin, right in the chin with his boot. Using the water here to short him out. Galvin's girlfriend gets arrested. So this all starts launching into into the bigger story. It's a good story. It's very well plotted. Like I said, the pacing is great. You get a lot. It's faster paced than the Isom books so far. A lot packed into it. A lot of character development packed into it. Some really spectacular scenes. I felt early on like you could turn this into a movie, animated cartoon, by literally just handing the book to some animators and saying, just follow the story exactly. It has that kind of pacing. And that's not uncommon, I've found, with Chuck Dixon's work. I reviewed his maybe first modern, maybe first Conan novel. I know he worked on the Conan comic for Marvel back in the day, but his first novel. And it was the same thing. I felt like in my head, I'm kind of watching a movie as I read the book. It paced out that way. Some great lines. You get a few different villains in here, and that's the beauty of having these shared universes. Is that these aren't just villains who are going to pop up once. They're going to keep coming back, and at some point they're going to probably be facing Isom. How's Isom going to deal with this guy? How's Isom going to deal with some of these other characters that are showing up? How's Yaira going to deal with them? They might not be dealing with them anytime real soon, but eventually they will because they all live in Florist Park, Texas. So they're going to bump into each other. That's the promise of those things. And the shared universe is also really great because, and this is from a company standpoint, I think. Well, first of all, it draws people in to try other books because they do intersect with each other. And so you start reading one, and then some characters from another show up for a moment, and you go, maybe I need to buy some of those books. Those characters are kind of cool. I want to check them out. But you also have the opportunity. Let's say you put out a book, and it's not received super well. It doesn't do great. Doesn't mean that character is gone. If you're just an indie creator and you put out a book on your own and the sales are really poor, you might not get another shot with that character. Here, that character can show up later in a different book with a different creator working on it, and all of a sudden they might really take off. There's a lot of examples of that, obviously, with Marvel and DC, of characters who, kind of really more came into their own after their own books were canceled. Well, take like a She-Hulk, for example. She had better days ahead of her. All right, so I don't want to get too far into this because I don't want to ruin the story. But needless to say, extremely well written. Unbelievably gorgeous art. Great coloring. It's a beautiful book. It's well worth the price. And I think it succeeds very admirably in advancing the shared universe concept, not only from the standpoint of the characters, but also from the standpoint of other creators mixing wading into this world and expanding it. Of course, there are already books planned from the Soska sisters, and I know that's going to have a different vibe than this, and from Isom, just based on them, but also things that have been said. And Mike Barron's working on one. For a character called Gooding. So that's really interesting. And we'll see how those all mesh together and what other projects come along. But I think this accomplishes that goal of really introducing the shared universe concept for the Rippaverse. I think it's going to go places. It's a lot of fun to be here at the beginning, to see things develop from the get-go. There's great room for these characters to develop. Solari is sort of the guy in charge, but he's got some growing up to do, and he's definitely got a little bit of I kind of detect a little bit of an arrogant edge, that he's going to have to maybe swallow his pride a little bit, and to get things done. Ingrid's really great. Again, forceful personality, and she does some nice character development in this one. Of sort of, you can maybe say, losing a chip from her shoulder a little bit. Kind because she's clearly, she does not seem 100% sold on Alphacore. You know, she's there, she wants to make it work, but she's clearly not 100% sold. And like I said, Braxton, he's great. This is the foundation. This is the cornerstone to make this work, because these personalities are going to clash. But you know what? He might, we might get more out of him later, a little more of that kind of intensity. He's got his own intensity, and he's a great character. He's kind of reminds me a little bit of characters like Snake Eyes, in G.I. Joe. You don't find out much about him. You find out about his past a bit. You find out about her past a bit. As the story progresses, it's told within the story, which is nice. You don't find out much about Braxton, so still waters run deep. Who knows? There's so much potential here, so much potential. If you haven't picked it up yet, I highly suggest it. It's got its own feel. It's not like just another Isom book. It's got its own feel, and it's great. But again, it does mesh well with Isom. I think he's a great counterpoint because he's such a different kind of character to these guys. The vibe I keep getting off Isom is, a little bit like Power Man, but not mercenary, but that sort of like, I'm independent, I'm beholden to nobody. I'm going to do what I think is right. And I'm going to, and he's built up that attitude of, I'm seeing this through because there are problems and they need to be dealt with. So he's got his thing going, and it's awesome. But Alphacore, whole new dimension. Highly, highly recommend this one. It's very good. Dixon and Bennett have done a fantastic job with introducing these characters. And you do get a complete story, but it doesn't wrap everything up. How do I put this? It has a spectacular ending and a spectacular to be continued as well. So we haven't seen the end of this particular story yet. It's maybe coming in the next issue, or I don't know how they're going to develop it exactly, but it sets the groundwork. But you do get a really spectacular set piece at the end. That would be, I could picture it like in, the Bruce Timm cartoons. I could picture it in live action. It's pretty awesome. Go pick it up and go read it. That's what I'm saying. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this review of Alphacore #1 by Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett from the Rippaverse comics. I thank you if you've lasted through the review to this point. It really helps me out when folks kind of see these through. Helps with the whole algorithm thing. Hopefully I didn't drone on too much. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. That really also helps get these videos sort of out in circulation. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you enjoy hearing about all sorts of different kinds of pop culture, both new and old. And maybe share with a friend. In the meantime, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another out there. And try to have some fun. Perhaps by sitting and reading Alphacore #1. And in the meantime, I will see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture.